Yeah, intermission.
Now in InDesign, you'll see that we're back into the template that we set up in the last video. This template is for the goblin and the huckster. And as we go through, we had a few of these pages that we were going to put elements into. So I'm going to go ahead and start right here with this dog photo to kind of show you what happens at this point. To place an item in here, remember you can do a Command D or you can go to File, Place. We'll do Command D. And from our desktop, if we scroll down here to Grand Dog, I can click on my Photoshop file, the original, and I can place it in here. Now there's a few different ways that you can go about resizing. If you hold Shift, Option, and Command, you can then click on a corner and drag, and it will resize your image. That's one way to do it. Another way to do it is that you could click on your image, come up here to where you see these arrows going right and down, and you could change one of those to 25%, thus making that image 25% of what it was before. So what I'll do is go ahead and bring this down a little bit and get it about this size. Again, we're wanting to stay inside the margins. So you can position this dog where you would like it to be within the margins. I don't want to cut off the bottom. We've got some extra room on the top here. We'll cut that off. Move this over. And there we go. So if we preview, by doing Shift W, we can see that we've got this image within the margins and it's looking great. Now, if you wanted to recolor this, I can hit Escape to get back into my pages. You can't do any recoloring here in InDesign. You'll see if I click on the image, come up here to my color palette, click a color, nothing happens. So in order to change this image at all, I would have to take it back into Photoshop, make the corrections there, then bring it back into InDesign. Something that's worthwhile depending on what you're working with, but in our situation, we don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and delete this. So do a Command D to place the next image. And we'll come to our first TIFF image. This was just a grayscaled image of the same thing. So again, we'll make this a little bit smaller. Okay. You could see here, especially when we put it on a white background, that it does have gray background here. So that's what I was talking about when we saw those little dots appearing in the halftone screen. Now what you can do here with it being a TIFF is that you can assign colors to the image without needing to take it back into Photoshop. This is a nice look if you want your piece to be monochromatic and if you want to keep the color palette very simple. So what you would do is you can either click on this circle here, or you can double click on the image. Either way, you'll notice that you have a blue bounding box around this image naturally, and if you double click on it, or if you click this circle, you'll see this orangish brown box appear. Once that appears, you can come up here to your colors and you can select a different color, and that color will be applied to this image. Now you will notice that it applies all the way around, this whole background here, everything. And so if I wanted to take this and put it close to some text, even if I move this down, I'm going to have this pink box that I'm having to deal with. And that might not be something that I want. Now if it's over here by itself, that might not be an issue. But if I have it interacting with other things or on the same page as other elements, I might not want that. That's where a bitmap comes in handy for us. Let's go ahead and delete this one. Do a Command D, and we'll go to Option 2. Now Option 2 here, if you remember, was bitmapping at a 50% threshold. So let's go ahead and bring this in. And you'll see that we have no gray background because things were either made white or black when it's bitmapped. So it takes care of that background for us. Now I could come over here, just as an example, let's make this a little bit bigger and give it some style, some pizzazz. All right, and we're even going to keep that hyphen in there. So at this point, you could see that I can move this over the text. It could interact, and I wouldn't have any background that would be an issue or any bounding boxes coming around. Now, you can do the same thing with a bitmap, and it works on the same principle. That is, if you double click on this, the box will change color, and you can come up here and reassign this image, whatever color you would like it to be, and the background stays open and empty. Now I could take this, place it over closer, and maybe that's my intro title page. Now we can leave this image down here, and let's go ahead and bring in our last image that we made with a halftone screen. We'll resize this image. You'll notice here that there are those dots that you could see in the background that are still appearing. And this will work the same way as the grayscale TIFF or the 50% threshold bitmap. And that is that we can double click on this image, get that brown bounding box, and reassign the color. Now something that's nice about this is that these dots, you're able to see through them. So you're able to take these bitmaps and you could overlay things like this. Even better, I can take two that have a little bit more room in them like this. I can hold down Option, click on my image and drag to get a second, double click on the new one, give it a new color, and then I can move that around a little bit, get it to where it looks nice. But I can get some interesting things happening. Also, if I zoom in very close here, you'll be able to see how it's being colored and making it a bitmap, how everything in the background that was white drops out and just the dots that are on are visible. So I can overlay patterns like this. So there's a couple ways of getting things out of Photoshop and into InDesign. Remember that you can use a photograph, but you have to recolor and do the work of recoloring anything or restructuring within Photoshop. If you want to have InDesign handle some of the color work, make it a little bit simpler to use, keep your color palette down, you can save things as either a grayscale TIFF or a bitmap TIFF, put it into InDesign, and give it the coloring there. Hope that was helpful, and try out some of these techniques in your own work.